around 5 p.m. And originally, I have my family is German, and I grew up in Spain, so I'm all over the place in Europe. And yeah, my studies brought me to the Netherlands. I did a PhD in biomedical engineering, and I knew pretty early that I didn't want to continue in the academic space, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. Took some time off, worked at the company too. And yeah, after that, I was a bit, yeah, I reached like a level of, yeah, let's say routine in my job. And I didn't like it. I wanted to learn new things, wanted to do new things. And my job didn't kind of allow me that. And so I started looking for alternatives, and I never thought I would end up as a freelancer slash one person business. But yeah, I started this journey in January this year. And since then it's been pretty great. So I started in January also ship 30. Yeah, unluckily without a live cohort, but then I found this community here, and it's been lovely. This is my second sprint, and I think I'm a little bit behind you guys. So I'm still also doing a lot of content, but also in the future, you said it a lot. I want to learn more about having a bit more strategic content, and of course more about sales, because same as Janice says, in academia it's like a big taboo. Nobody talks about making money or sales or this kind of stuff. So it's also a mindset journey for me, so to be an environment where these topics are talked about, and I'm very lucky to be part of this group. Yeah. Hand
It-
over back to Dean.
okay, sorry about that. I had like 10,000 windows open and my computer just went, nah, this ain't gonna happen. So I take it that Janice, you've already spoken, you've introed. Uh, Vernon, have you said you just sneakily
Oh,
jumped
there's
in?
Vernon. I didn't see him.
All right. Uh,
Vernon.
quick intro, share what you want.
Hey, yeah, sorry, yeah, I was a little bit late. I completely lost track of time. So hello, greetings. I'm Vannon. I am based in the UK. I am in my dressing gown. It's the middle of the afternoon, and I don't care. So you're just gonna have to work with it. So I don't even know where to start. So I did my first ship 30 almost exactly 3 years ago, when it was in the cohort flavor. Um, Towards the end of 2022, that's when I ran into Dean. As I like to say, Dean likes to collect people, so we kind of hit it off in one of the calls, and we've been just building on that relationship ever since, supporting each other with the writing journey. My background is I'm a professional nerd, so I'm a software tester. I work on software development teams. That is going to be what my niche generally is in the first instance. So it's going to be around software quality, coaching, culture, collaboration, that kind of thing. But all of that is kind of really the long-term play is to be a copywriter or a ghostwriter. So I've also joined PGA, so I'm drinking deep on the 𝗖cie and 𝗂𝗏 Kool-Aid. It's good stuff. And I've just been going down this rabbit hole for the last 2 or 3 years. So started to explore beyond the Ship 30 PGA kind of ecosystem and see what other information and knowledge is out there. More recently, though, I haven't done a consistent ship 30 since 2023, I don't think. It's been very, very, very sporadic. Have been writing on the background, thanks to PGA. So I've got a free. I'm working with a friend of mine who needed an 𝗚EC there. So I've been building up her 𝗚EC, done that, helping her with her website now. Um, and then yeah, me and Dean have got some designs to do some stuff in the future. Fingers crossed if we can pull it off. Um, I think that's I should stop talking. That is it from me.
Cool, thanks. Um, so Yeah, nice to really just meet. And I know I've spoken to you all sort of here and so I'm just going to caveat just like my personality so that you go like he is really nice on the call, but like he's really aggressive on the messages and stuff. So I'm actually yeah, Janice is laughing. So I'm actually an extremely direct person. Like I'm very, very direct. And Laura, you're probably getting a bit of that coming through now. And the reason that I'm very, very direct is that I have a sales background. And in sales, it's like, and especially in software sales, SaaS, because that's been the last 10 years, um, you want to get to the information as quickly as possible to make sure that you move the deal forward. And it's not that you're being it's in software, it's cutthroat. And so you just want to know who's the ICP, what risk is in the deal, why is that slowed down? You've called a number, what, you know. And so that's just been ingrained into my head. And so that's why it comes across. But when I say stuff, it comes across it can come across a little bit aggressive, but I say it with care, I say it with love. And so if I ever ping you on something and I'm direct, it's not because I'm trying to have a go. It's like I just want you to get the information as quickly as possible. And then the second thing is, if you don't hear from me, it doesn't mean that I don't care. It just means that I'm busy doing something. And generally speaking, I think in the whole, and I don't see myself as a mentor or anything. I'm just a little bit further down the writing path than you guys. Is that um, you generally get feedback from people that care. And it's like, and you've probably all been like that in your own communities and your relationship. You know, when you just kind of like don't care and somebody like just doesn't do something, and you're like, I've told Laura so many times that she needs to be doing this, and then she just doesn't listen, and you just go, whatever. And like that's so if you don't, it's not you got to kind of think that. So when somebody gives you feedback, especially and I said this in the last video, on the internet, there's two places. There's first and there's nothing. And nothing means that you're not getting any feedback. There's no signal. It's just noise. And so that's what you got to be aware of. So, okay. So I said, let's just sort of open it up a little bit. I've got here 30 minutes. I'm talking about digital writing. I've got tons of views. There's some of you that are relatively new. Some of you been here a little bit longer. I'm curious, like just what has been let's just open up. What's been the single biggest takeaway since like just writing online, and what is like a piece of advice that you'd give yourself before you actually hit, process on your credit card? Remember that moment where you hit process and you're there going, is this thing legit? Is it a scam? Will I get my money back? Like, how does this thing work? Why am I scrolling down and seeing all these testimonies and like is this like the dumbest idea? Oh, it'll just be if I'll do it's only $300. Not a problem. I'll do it. Like what's been the biggest takeaway and just feedback? And how about I'll just open it up so don't have to say anything. Just whoever wants to go first.
I'll go. I can get this kicked off super quick. So at the moment, so when I all the sprints I've done up to this point, I publish them on TypeShare and it kind of published them everywhere else. And I remember, and what I'm doing at the moment is I found this blog called Bear Blog, and I'm just reposting everything there because I don't think TypeShare is a very great reading or writing experience. And I've rediscovered something that I remember thinking at the time when I was writing, and I would like to share it with you guys, which is I know a lot of shit. It's just I was like, God damn, like I sound like I know what I'm talking about. Holy crap. Because I say all, a lot of the stuff that you take for granted that you get out of your head and you write it down for a post because you're just trying to get anything out to stick to the 30 days. It was really affirming just for me to see that, oh, I know what I'm talking about. And then you see the reaction that you get from people on social media who are also giving you positive feedback. That it sounds a bit silly, but it was just like, oh, I do know what I'm doing. I do know what I'm talking about. That's cool. I kind of didn't realize that that was the case. So I've rediscovered that as I'm copying stuff from TypeShare to this new blog, and I'm rereading what I've written in the past. And oh, goddamn, that wasn't bad. That piece of writing just there. So
What would you say to yourself now, 3.5 years. Is it three? It's good. No, yeah, more than three. Yeah,
Three.
three. Yeah,
Yeah, almost
bef
exactly.
before you pulled the trigger on ship 30. And I'll just say this, guys. When Vernon did ship 30 for 30, it was a lot cheaper than when I did ship 30 for 30. And so the price went up like that. And then when they went asynchronous, it just dropped again. And I'm just like, man, it's like I paid at the high point. So
Yeah, so I was doing a course. So I was doing this business course with this lady called Ari Hale. She mentioned the fact that she was doing ship 30, and then I saw Dickie and Cole posting, and to Dean's point, it was 400 USDs when I signed up to do it. And I kind of just thought, look, I I had a, I had enough money at that time to kind of say, do you know what? $400. If it turns out to be trash, it's fine. It's worth a shot. And I did it, and then I I usually would have been quite skeptical during the process, but I said to myself, okay, this sounds crazy that they said that you should post, but I've paid the money, I should probably just do what they say, and I started posting. Although, slight tangent, I started posting on Twitter originally, as it was back then, and I was too scared and wary to post on LinkedIn because LinkedIn seemed a little bit more professional. And the only reason I started posting on LinkedIn is that I did it by accident. Because there was an option in TypeShare where it said, "Oh, do you want to post to Medium, Twitter, and LinkedIn?" And I would always disable LinkedIn. And this one day I forgot and I didn't disable it and it posted to LinkedIn. I was like, "Oh, you are a moron. What are you doing?" But then I said to myself, "Well, I've done it now. I'm not going to delete it. And because it was a classic thing, because I'd posted quite late, I said I'm going to go to bed. Woke up and um, it had some engagement and people were quite positive. So the thing I would tell myself is start posting on LinkedIn immediately and start being a chicken, basically, is what I would say.
I think Laura asked a question, Vern, just on takeaways from PGA.
Okay, so biggest takeaway from is anyone else in PJ here? Anyone else? My biggest so there are two. Of This might sound familiar to Dean because we've chatted a lot about this over the past year or two. Um, the first thing is PGA works better if you've done 2 sprints worth of right. So if you've got 60 posts internally, like you don't need to do 60 posts to start, by the way, at all. But I just think internally for you individually, you will feel more comfortable if you've done a bunch of posting and writing and engage with people and this, that, and the other. And that's weirdly related to this in a weird way, it's related to the second point, which is um making a success of being a writer online and doing all this solopreneurship in a weird way isn't about the writing. It's about everything else around the writing, but it won't work without the writing. So you've got to do, if you're not doing any writing, nothing's going to work. But once you are writing, I think Dean has said this a bunch of times, it's not like you write. So I could post today and then on Sunday, I'm not going to have 100 DMs saying, "Hey, Vern, I want to give you £10,000 a month because you're just so incredible and awesome." Like that's not how it works. So you've got to be posting consistently as a foundational practice. And then everything else that you do around the writing is what will make you successful. So you've got to be engaging. You've got to be doing like the outreach is fundamental. Like we are now all salespeople, whether we like it or not. And that's something that PJ talks about is that at some point you are going to have to ask somebody to give you money. It's no, there's no getting away from. So they give you a lot of material to help you do that because I think that's one of Dean's unfair advantages is that he's got a lot of experience in sales. So he's not, you know, he might talk and behave in a way that the rest of us find a little bit, whoa, you did what? And you said what to who? And you approached this person? All a bit worrying and a bit scary. But I think they're the two biggest takeaways. One is do as much writing as you can before you join, if you're going to join. And then once you have joined, keep writing, but realize that the easiest part of the whole bloody thing is the writing. And the success is dependent on all of that sales stuff, the outreach, understanding who your ICP is, understand, all of that good stuff. That's what I would say. I hope that makes sense. Hope that answered your question, Laura. If not, let me know. I can add some more.
Great summary, Vernon. I really like what you say that it's not only about the writing, which is also my conclusion now. I mean, I really like that I did the ship 30 because it gave me the consistency, it gave me the experience, and I need to follow through. But at the end, you realize, okay, but it's not everything, let's say like this. Yeah.
What would you tell yourself, Laura? Like now that you've thrown yourself out there, you're doing images, what would you say to yourself now when you first that timid Laura going, am I gonna give these random people some money or am I gonna like what would you tell yourself?
Yeah, I remember that moment exactly because before that, I never spent that big money to have a course or program. It was mostly things below 100 euros. And so it was scary. It was like, oh, what is it gonna give me? But I think I learned exactly what I wanted and what was the outcome, which is to post consistently, to overcome the doubts, and also to realize there were days where it was super difficult, where I thought, okay, I'm empty, I don't have ideas. But the moment you push through, and the moment
Hmm.
you make yourself push through, even if you don't believe, like, I don't have a good idea today, but the moment you do that, it's unlocks it's yeah, it unlocked so many things for me. So yeah.
And you actually got a ghostwriting client pretty early on. You were sharing, like, tell us about that process, and then tell us about what went through your head when you don't have to tell us how much, but like, I would like to know, have they handed over some cash to you, and is that more than the investment that you put into Ship 30, and what were you thinking when that happened? Because just to get when a friend of mine paid me my first amount of money, I was like, holy shit, this thing is real. This thing is real, real. So I'd like to know because that happened really fast. It took me like 18 months.
Yeah, it was crazy, and I am not gonna make it pretty, but it was by accident. It was because I had no sales experience whatsoever. Well, I was working together with sales, but I've never sold anything, let's say, directly. And so the how the story went is I think, in day 24 of my ship 30 of my first one. And the day after that, I actually had scheduled with a friend a practice session of, okay, if I would ghostwrite for someone else, how would I do it? How would I present it to them? And so we decided to meet to practice this. And so the day before that, I had a meeting with someone else because I asked him. He was also a scientist, but on the side, he had his own things. He was a speaker, he was doing workshops, and I just wanted to know from him, how does he manage his solo business? Does he have any suggestions for me? I just wanted to learn about his solopreneurship journey. And so we met to talk, and I think I thought I would spend half an hour. In the end, we spent more than 1.5 hours. And towards the end, he just dropped the bomb on me, like, "Oh, Laura, so I've seen you posting on LinkedIn, how much would it cost me for you to do the same for me? And I was like completely blacking out because I didn't even know my prices. I didn't go into this conversation expecting any of it. And yeah, so I first of all I was a bit shocked. I was like, okay, right. I must seem so unprofessional now. I'm not prepared. I don't know my prices. I don't know my pitch. But okay. I invented a number that I was using actually for a company client that I pitched a few days earlier. And so he in the conversation he thought, okay, I can offer you a little bit less than what you say. So yeah, I don't mind sharing the numbers. I said I would do it for I think 1,000 euros or something like this, 1,000 euros per month for 3 posts a week, something like that. And so he said, okay, how about I give you 750 euros and I commit or soft commit to 2 months. So maybe it's a bit less than you expect, but I am willing to commit for 2 months. And that's where we sealed the deal. And I didn't even renegotiate. I was like, awesome, I do this for you. We meet every week and I help you with that. That was my story.
Can I just say, so my first deal, it was 6,000 AUD per month, a piece of content per day, and I didn't have any frameworks. I didn't have it. I just made it up. So your deal is actually more profitable than my deal, and I'm still trying to fulfill because I kind of messed like my first client was my first victim. That's what I'll say. That was my first victim. So yeah, so you've done really well, and that's why I wanted you to share that because um we'll talk about some sales stuff shortly, but I think that what people forget is that everyone's doing their own thing. Like everyone, we're all doing our own thing. And although that we're quite, unique biologically and genetically, we all have the same likes and interests and things like that. And so when people are your client is actually going to be your number one lurker. They're not going to be engaging in your post. They're not going to be commenting. They're not going to be doing that. They'll be lurking. So, yeah. Janice, how about we switch over to you? I'm curious about your journey because I know that you've got some consultancy clients, you've got some templates and stuff like that. Because I am a heavy Notion user, and you've seen some of the stuff but I'm curious about your journey, how you got into it. I know we've talked a little bit, but just a little bit more about the business aspect as well would be kind of cool.
Yeah, sure. I think getting into Ship30, the longest story of getting into Ship30 is actually I had and still have, I suppose, like a travel and photography blog. So that's something that, I was interested in and still interested in. And basically I joined Ship30 because I was thinking, oh, it'll be good to like get better at writing because, my background is nothing to do with writing. So I joined Ship30 actually to just get better at writing and learn some skills for really just blogging. And then I started writing a little bit about photography, but then I also wrote about productivity in Notion because that was like what I was interested in. And the productivity in Notion stuff kind of just hit the mark a bit more. And I also enjoyed writing about that a bit more. I was writing on X. So I think naturally that platform, just in hindsight, I think that platform was just a bit more catered towards people who are more interested in like tech and productivity side of things. So that's probably why productivity in Notion hit more so than I think the travel stuff or like the photography stuff. So that's kind of how I jumped into Ship30. And then over the last couple of years, while they were doing the live cohort still, I was doing the cohort when it happened. And that was really great to like meet people. I don't think my clients that I've worked with so far have come from the people I've specifically met, but it's definitely some of the people that I've met along the way in terms of writing online. And then I think last year I decided to jump on LinkedIn maybe August last year, I can't remember. That was when I met Dean and a bunch of other people, just through knowing people who did Ship 30. So I'm pretty new to LinkedIn, and still kind of working that out. And Dean and, everyone else that I've been doing the writing with has been like really helpful in terms of like understanding how LinkedIn works and how it's different to X. So that's kind of the writing side of things. In terms of like what I've done over the last couple of years, I would say it's only been in the last 1.5 years since I've been on sabbatical that I've started taking the whole business stuff a little bit more seriously, because I've now had the time versus doing a 9 to 5 and then doing all this on the side. So I definitely started with digital products, because that's kind of what Ship 30 really talked about. Like, finding out or learning what your audience are interested in, and then like creating your first product, et cetera, et cetera. So I did a lot of that. And I think I'm trying to think. I sold some templates. I sold the quote unquote biggest thing I sold that was a digital product was like a template, like a writing template / teaching you about Notion type thing. So that I think, from memory, I think it was like maybe 600 Australian dollars all up that I sold it for, like, in terms of like the people who bought it. But I haven't really promoted it that much. It's there, but I don't really actively promote it because I have my personal feelings about templates and how people use Notion. So it's kind of steered me away a little bit from templates really into consulting, because I realize I think I just enjoy working one-on-one with people a lot more, because that's more resonant with what I do in my day job, which is a lot of training, coaching, that side of things. And doing the digital products made me realize actually they're fine, but they're a lot of effort when you're at the beginning of your journey, and doing a service-based offer is, I think, in hindsight, the thing I should have done instead of digital products, for different reasons. The fact that it's probably a bit easier to start off with versus digital products, but also at the end of the day, when you're creating your first digital product, whether it's a freebie or whether it's like a paid thing, you put in a lot more effort than ultimately what you'll get out of it, unless, you are very experienced with it. So I would say my first digital product took way more time and effort than I ended up really, making from it, but it was a really, really great experience. And yeah, so since I think early last year is when I started doing a bit more Notion consulting, which is basically either giving people advice around how to do stuff in Notion based on what the problems they're trying to solve, or more specifically, kind of what I'm more interested in doing is really just building Notion setups for people from scratch, because it's like, I think it's a better approach to sort of get it done right from the beginning, if that's what people are interested in. So hopefully that kind of gives you a bit of a summary.
I have a question. So
Yeah, go ahead.
so I like buying digital courses. I'm a junkie. I've got like a ton of them, and then I copy them and I share them around. So, and Vern's got a view on that, and he's like, "Oh, dude, don't, like we've had these conversations." But one of the things that I picked up from Justin Welsh was this whole thing of like, hey, go and do a service-based business, go, like a lot of these guys, these digital entrepreneurs, these solopreneur guys, they talk about, start a service business first and then, build out from that. Had you heard that advice, given that you'd done and what propelled you to ignore that and then go, hey, I'm going to go a template course, I'm going to do a template first, or a product? What made you go against that when you did? And to be honest, $600 for at that template, to me, if I would go like, whoa, is it really worth $600? But now in hindsight, you could probably
no, not the template, not the template, as in like the revenue that came from the template.
Right.
$600.
Okay. Got it.
Not
Got
each
it.
template. No.
Okay. Got it.
No, that would be amazing if it was, but no.
Okay. But so what got you to go digital product before consulting?
I mean, this might sound a bit silly in hindsight. I think Ship 30 was kind of the first writing thing I ever purchased, in terms of a course. And I think at the time I was just very much in that like their ecosystem, and that's just what they taught. Like, write and then create your first product, blah, 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 start your newsletter, etc. So I just did that. I actually didn't really, I mean, I don't even know if I followed Justin Welsh specifically at the time or really any other writer. And I feel like a lot of people who did write, or at least in that Dickie Cole space, they all talk about digital products, and that's what they were all selling, right? Because that's what they sell, the digital products and live cohorts. So I actually didn't really even know that much about this whole you should start with a service business before you do a digital product thing.
Yeah,
So
okay.
yeah, unintentional.
Yeah,
Hence why in hindsight, I would have done the service first in hindsight.
yeah, I think for me, and I'd be curious just to get other people's thoughts, is that I think when you hide behind a digital product, it's kind of easy. You go, here it is, and then because like the concept of
Sounds
talking
better.
yeah, and just like talking to people, like just like
Mm,
and then to go, oh well, this is how like that to me, just intellectually seemed like a really scary domain to enter. And you're like, I don't have the frameworks, I don't have the experience,
mm,
I don't have the case
mm.
studies, I don't have the metrics, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
You know, but the reality is like when you're writing every day, and if you and one of the things is I've said this to a number of people, you're not just learning how to be a writer, you're learning how to become a digital marketer. You're learning how to do
Mm,
socially digital market. Like that's what you're learning.
mm,
And if you don't understand signal, noise, click-through rates, engagement, like if you ignore that and you just keep posting crap up,
mm,
you're not going to be able to build that ecosystem of
mm.
products and all of that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I've done like this is my fourth or fifth sprint. I see it a lot,
Mm,
and I've
mm,
only started to pick up on. And I've said this to some of you guys, like you need to kind of go and read some of this stuff, so and then you start picking up on this stuff because you can just write, but if you've got nothing to support that journey, then it's
mm.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
Roman. Mr. Video Man, I want to know because we've spoken a little while, but I want to know. We had a chat and we've jumped on a couple times and we've spoke, and then you just kind of disappeared and you just came on. We're like, I'm gonna do video. Like, talk me through it, man. Like, journey into Ship 30, what you tell yourself, and then like, how did you flip into videos and what's been going on?
Yeah, it's all a little bit crazy, but Ship 30 first. Yeah, I'm not a course junkie, but I pay for things when I see value in them. So I have Justin Welsh course, I have Ship 30, I have some coaching program, I have like a couple of other things and books occasionally. Yeah, I just read a whole bunch of books as I always share about this. But um, so for me, I started posting on X before actually joining Ship 30 and I had no clear strategy. And even doing Ship 30 for the first time, I had no clear strategy. But now I think I'm converging into something towards more like B2B lead generation, all that kind of stuff that people are interested in from the financial perspective. And I myself is interested in that thing. So yeah, just a little bit about what I learned from the, what is it, third sprint for me. Unfortunately, I'm not able to post like consistently. I don't post on weekends at all because I got 3 kids. None of them go to school or childcare. They are all with us all the time, and we homeschool the oldest one. So it's kind of a little bit over the top. And I have another side business going on. So we are building the two-sided marketplace for pets in Australia. So I have the website that's focused around cats, but we are expanding this to cats and dogs. And Vernon might know in UK there is pets, how it's called, like Pets for Homes, huge marketplace with incredible
Yeah,
traffic, and we are
pets at
mimicking
home.
sort of yeah, we are mimicking that here, and hopefully we'll get some traction. But for cats, that's like it's bringing a little bit of cash now. So yeah, but for the videos, how I pivoted to that a little bit, I'm attending here a local startup meetup, and there are a bunch of incredible people sharing all sorts of things. But one guy, he approached me when I was focusing on actually landing pages, not ghostwriting. And we've been chatting, and he said, "Oh, I'm like doing this. How to say? I test startup ideas and build MVPs to like test them further. And then when we get traction, we help this company for which he was working at that time to basically diversify their assets in the startups, because this is the company he was working for was 𝗖𝗍. Dean, I'm not sure if you know that 𝗖𝗍 insurance. It's like car vehicle insurance. They have
they're big.
So they decided to diversify because the industry is on the decline into innovation thing, not like on acquisition. So they don't acquire businesses, but they decided to launch their own startup hub or whatever you call. And that guy was working in that division, testing startup ideas. And in 2 years, he tested about 60 startup ideas. He launched two, I think, with his help. They launched 2 startups. But then he said, like, okay, I'm doing this video challenge for 2 months now. I started it as a 30-day video challenge on LinkedIn. Now it's my 60th day, and he was sharing some crazy numbers in terms of impressions and like the traction he gets. So he's grown his audience purely from video from 1,000 followers to 4,000 followers in this like 1.5 months. Basically doing nothing, just posting videos around B2B marketing, and that definitely inspired me to look into this thing, because I always wanted to start a podcast or YouTube channel, but I had no like experience whatsoever. But I had some a little bit of design skills, a little bit of writing skills. So I thought, yeah, why not just do something about it? And so I joined him, and that's why I'm posting these reports about like this is 4th week of yearly challenge and 6th week, whatever. So I'm just building up the momentum to do more of this. Not sure where it lands me, but right now I'm narrowing down my content strategy around B2B marketing, trying to build more storytelling into my posts, because they are kind of boring, and even I hate watching them. But I just try to, consistently improve one thing at a time. So right now my big focus is around what I want to test this idea from Dicky and Cole around lean sort of writing, because I'm a big fan of lean framework in general, but I have no clue on how to properly do that, because I post it on X, I post it on LinkedIn, like this short outline kind of posts, but they don't get any traction whatsoever. So I'm not sure, maybe there's a better way to do this, and I'm looking to ask you guys about your experiences with this lean writing framework, if you have any thoughts, ideas around that. So yeah, that's about me and this journey. So I don't know what to talk about. Ask me questions. Yeah.
All right. And Benjamin, let's I'm curious, man. You've got a really specific niche, and you've obviously shared the background and how so I can get that, but it's pretty personal, like, and to be posting on LinkedIn, I'd imagine that can't be easy. Like I was scared about posting about sales, and I had salespeople on it, but like posting about what you're posting about is like pretty, yeah, like talk us through that. What like how's it been writing? Like what's been the Benjamin Kingston story?
Well, yeah, it's a long story. So I don't really know where to start. We'll start with posting on LinkedIn. It was definitely a big fear of mine. And the only reason it happened is kind of like what Vernon said, where it was a complete accident. TypeShare did not push to LinkedIn or did not post for me at all. So I just said, and I committed to doing the 30-day challenge. And so when I commit, when I'm in 100%. Probably why the divorce was such a big problem for me, because I was fully in. And yeah, so I just said, screw it. And I posted on LinkedIn, and everyone on LinkedIn was pretty much a connection to a coworker of mine. There's about 12,000 air traffic controllers in the States, and I had about 600 that I had met over the last 24 years. And so that was a pretty embarrassing thing. And then I realized that no one really cared. So after day two, like the impressions went from like 900 people to 1,000 people, and then they dropped off the plate of the world. So like they didn't care anymore. And plus, like day two, I did a pretty strategic posting about air traffic to show them that like how much I respect air traffic controllers, and that this wasn't about them, and that this was about like a journey and trying to help men into a struggle that I witnessed, right? So 5 to 6 years ago, experienced divorce for the first time, getting served papers, my world crumbled, and what I thought I controlled, everything, I really learned that I controlled nothing. And so I searched and I searched for all kinds of help, any kind of advocates, anything, and nothing was out there. And so that led me on this wild journey of trying to save the marriage through going to marriage therapy that she never showed up to for. So it became about me, which was exactly what I needed. And that persisted for about 4 years of therapy in different avenues. And through a therapy session, I was having some challenges at work with a different kind of management style that I'd never been exposed to. And that was a really big problem for me. And she asked me a question about like, are you afraid about doing something of your own? And I probably responded to something to the extent of no and yes at the same time. And she was like, well, what do you want to do? And I say, I'd like to help men through divorce. And she like immediately laughed, and she never laughed, which I kind of took as insulting, but I also took as a challenge. And yeah, from there, the idea kind of just iterated for years. A year ago, I went to my first conference where I was like deeply inspired by someone that I highly respected, and I got a chance to meet them one on one. And they asked me what I wanted to do. And at the time, I was positioning myself to take the job that I'm in now, which is kind of in place retirement. I'm at a small facility up north. I used to work at San Francisco Airport. So I've gone from a really big, large, busy airport to this kind of, it's beautiful up there in wine country. It's gorgeous. And I'm not going to lose any money if I stay, and I could ride up the rest of my career for as long as I want to be up there. So I'm kind of retired in place, but I know where that road leads. And having exposure to meet somebody that I deeply admired put me into a place of believing myself more, because he believed in me and his team believed in me and supported me. And since then, it's been a massive change. Like I bought this house in 2015, and it had like holes in the ceilings and holes in the floor, and have replaced everything. And now I'm selling it to live in a shack in a vineyard about an hour and a half north of here, and hopefully focus on, well, I think part of me would like to leave the job so I could focus completely on helping men. I think part of me doubts that, but there's also like the psychological aspect of that. And then because I really truly believe that they need help. And so whereas that pivoted to last weekend, I was with that team that I met a year ago that was so impressive. I met them down in Miami for a conference, and we kind of that experience led to a brainstorming session with one of them that I'm going to inspire men now to do a 100-day hiking challenge. So I know there was a lot said there, and I'm going to be mindful of our time here. But yeah, ask any questions away. I mean, my just like my I think I told my mentor the other day, like I would kick my own ass if I could have a conversation with a younger version of myself. Because I had this plan at 50, I was going to retire. I was going to be set. This house, the retirement everything investments, and I've kind of just said fuck that to everything. And my apologies on my language, but like there's something inside of me, like this journey has brought me, like yoga and meditation brought me to God again, and I feel called to do this. And I'm a planner, a serious planner. So that the fact that I'm willing to leave my job, I've been retired in place essentially. My house is done and I'm now leaving it. Like, what the hell am I thinking? But I feel this big drive and this call and this passion, and I have to, because I know the other road. I know that in retirement in 8 years, like I'm comfortable, but I don't have a family and I didn't live the life I wanted to live. I'm like, sell it all, get rid of everything. I will live in my truck. Like, sign me up. I would just I want to learn to do something different.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's cool. That's pretty powerful. Yeah, I felt that your niche was just like, whoa, like, it's pretty confronting, and I think and we're both Christians, and um you know I ca- you know m- I would say 9 times out of 10 I am a Sunday Christian. You turn up to church and you go through the motions, and you know you come home and you have a week full of sin, whatever that is, like, and then you turn and that replenishes, but it doesn't really, and there's all this crap that we're and men and we men can bottle shit up pretty well, like I know, and so I think there is an opportunity there. I think it's just a case of understanding the messaging and what does that look like, because once we get on a journey of like, well, I need to learn about that shit. We'll do it in secrecy, and we'll download the free bleed magnets, and we'll watch that website, and we'll do this, and you know. So yeah, I no kudos to you, man. It's just inspiring.
Yeah, I think your original question to Dean was like, what did you learn now? And so I just completed ship 30 and I'm 18 days into the sprint, which thank you. This has been such an amazing inspiration. You guys are just incredible from the different content you guys put out there. But what have I learned is I don't know anything. And so the 30-day sprint challenge was just an exercise in um, learning like
Mm,
how to do it every day. It wasn't even in learning how to write. And now I need to know about templates and forms and hooks. And I still feel like I am writing from lessons that I have learned, and I want to share those lessons, but I don't even know if anyone cares. I don't know if it's valuable. And the only one people that really connect are women, but like I'm kind of on this journey where like I've cut everything off. I haven't talked to my family in the last 2, 3 weeks because if they find out I'm selling my house, like they're gonna fly here and kick my butt. Like if they knew that I put in for the deferred retirement, like they would be here talking me like how stupid I am and what am I doing? Like and I don't want to be stopped. Like I'm not dating. I'm just focused on one thing. Like I drive 3 hours to and from work a day. I work for about 9 to 10 hours a day. And then I write for an hour to 2 hours because I'm horrible at it. And I try to, in somewhere in there, figure out a landing page or talk to someone like Janice who's been helpful,
yeah, cool.
or like figure out, like, add some kind of value to someone's post.
Yeah, I'll let me just add to I think what you just said about the 30-day, like the initial ship 30, it is so true. And the funny thing is, and Janice and Vern will kind of like when they had the live cohorts, you are in the thick of like hundreds of people doing this thing, and they've all got their little boat emojis on, and they're posting, and you see Cole and Dickie. And they're repurposing stuff they did, like, 6, 5, 8 cohorts ago, and it's gotten better and better. But when you come into the ecosystem, you don't know that. You're just like, oh wow, and it's like, oh, and then you kind of gravitate towards certain people, and then you jump on these live cohorts, and you're looking for your name on the board, and you're hoping that you might get one of the blooms, and they used to give away all this stuff. Um, but the truth is, like, you look back now, it's like they were working shit out while they were doing it. Like they were working that out. And they were just a couple of years ahead of us when we were doing it. And so and then I'll say this, and I'll say this very, very seriously. In reference to what Vern said earlier, like we actually do know a hell of a lot more, and we have a lot more expertise in the content that we actually are writing about. The thing that we do not have is the confidence and the frameworks to put that out into the marketplace confidently, say, hey, I've done this and hey, I've done this. And I've called out a couple of people here in conversation. Like Laura, I asked you, so like, I've given you some consulting. Like, how much would you pay? How much would you pay? Right? And there's a reason why I asked that question because I'm testing the market and going, I've shared all of this value to you. How much would you pay? Because if you would give me a number, then that says, oh, okay, so there's this girl in or this woman in Europe, and she has given a number, and then there's this person here that's given me a number, and so then that then starts to triangulate like what would that market rate potentially be? And now you've got, and it's not a massive sample size of data, but it is a sample size of data that you can then start to then go, oh, okay, so maybe I could charge $75 an hour US or $50 US for 30, like whatever that is. Because every time I jump on a call with somebody, I literally see people just go, yeah, I got to think about that. Yeah, you're right. You've given me some thought. And that's only because I'm a little bit further and I go deep. And then I have these like, so Vern and I, we're kind of like, I kind of see ourselves as the two grumpy Muppets from the Muppet Show, Waldorf and Statler, the guys in the balcony just taking pot shot at Kermit, and I'm the grumpy one. I'm the one like ripping in like so I come across all but like I'm like I can't believe they I fucking know what an idiot and Vern just like cracks up and goes, oh, if grumpy Moonie's here. And but the reality is like I extrapolate all this data from obviously inside the cohort, the sprint group, and then I get hit up a lot by randoms pitching me and then wanting to pick my brain for like, hey, I'd like some time at blah blah blah. Like I jumped on a call with a gentleman in Canada a week ago, and I jumped out like at 5 in the morning, and the only reason I did that was to just help him out because he reached out, and then just to see what does he actually want to learn from me because, and he called me an expert, and then that like because of my images. Um, and he's like, well, I can see you. And then, Janice, we had a call the other day and I said, like, I don't think image generation is, and I'm so like wrong word. Like I want to say proud, but if you don't answer to me or anything like that, but I'm just so impressed that you've just pivoted and gone because now I can kind of see like the messaging and the notion type. I don't know if you feel that, but like for me, it's just like it kind of resonates a little bit more. And I think the next thing would be like some cool dashboard images and like infographic type sort of stuff. And people go, oh, Janet, yeah, she's the Notion expert. Like, you know what? And so you know a lot more than you realize. And then I get all these questions in the chat and individually. And they go, hey, how do you do this? And it's like the information is there. It's in the Ship 30 curriculum. You just need to take notes and then actually execute. But for whatever reason, when we buy stuff, we feel that we're validated, we've taken some, but doing the work is actually the hard thing. And so like the first sprint is always muscle memory on just like how do I get out of my head and just post. And literally one of the people that I added to the group the other day, she's in the Middle East somewhere. I think she's in Tel Aviv, Israel. She sent me a message after I added. She said, so happy to be here. Like, and she said, I'm not comfortable posting on LinkedIn. Do you think it would be okay if I posted on Instagram? And I'm like, I don't have that answer for you. Where are your customers? You post where your customers are. Like you're asking me. My customers are on LinkedIn. So that's why I post there. And when I have my digital course, I'll start posting on Instagram because I've got all these pretty images that'll work there. And I know that. But up until I'm ready to do that, like I've got to get my services revenue up so I can do that, and that's what it is. And these sprints serve as for me, and I'll share my bigger picture. And Laura, this will open up to why I asked you, and you're probably going like, what was he on about? Like, because I asked you, I said, like, if I found you work, would you? And then I said, so just so I've been chatting with Laura for a little while, and the reason that I kind of picked you out, Laura, was A, you've got that medical sort of like science sort of background with the type of work that you've done. And B, I just like your style, just the images and just that mega polarization of like, just challenging people. Um, and so when Vern and I were talking about this initially, I had this idea that I wanted to create a sales training business cohort based like Ship 30 for 30. That's kind of pivoted now. And when PGA started, I worked out very quickly that a lot of people would jump into PGA, pay a bucket load of cash, and then not know how to sell and do outreach and stuff like that. And as you all probably have realized, that is a big component of digital writing. You've got to go find your clients. They don't just come flocking because you post on LinkedIn and you have a landing page. It just doesn't. And then getting a newsletter, people don't just sign up. Like they just don't do that. And you know this already because if you look at your own behavior, how did you sign up to that newsletter? Do you have alias email addresses that you don't give away, or like we all do that, right? So we all know this fundamentally. But and I spoke to Roman a little bit about this. So my big picture right now is that with the proliferation of I want to build a ghostwriting marketplace because I know a lot of people will come into this space and get displaced, won't be able to actually find work, or they'll be, whatever. And they'll have a huge amount of expertise in like their work and stuff like that, and they'll want to go writing. But the thing that they will suck at and they'll be scared of is they won't know how to sell, and they won't know how to reach out, and they won't know how to do that. So my thing is like, how do I fix this problem for myself? How am I have the skills in sales and business development. I've done it. So I'm not scared of reaching out to a CEO and say, hey, can we have a chat? But I know what to say. I know how to do the research and all that sort of stuff. So my thing is, if I built out this marketplace and I had a stable of people, they don't work for me, but if I had a stable of people and I could find them work, would they be open to fulfilling? And so sign up, come in. And that's basically how my thing has morphed into this. And as I speak to each one of you, you start to give me data and feedback, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, and that's interesting, and that's interesting. So that's and so and why Laura and like Roman it's because I've done a really short stint at an agency, and that agency actually did campaigns for Big Pharma. So I know how they work fundamentally from a sales perspective, and I understand fundamentally how they actually then pitch to these large companies that do medical copywriting and stuff like that. But they suck at selling, and they suck at actually going out because they hired me to do that. So, and I've done that. So why am I telling all this? You all have superpowers, but you need to pull that in when you start your writing. And it's not in the writing, it's in the how you wrap the writing up and then you present it. That's what I've worked out. And so I have these moments with Vernon, and I just like do a brain dump, and he's like, "Oh, Moonie's just being grumpy, and he's just blah 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 blah," and he's kind of smiles, but like we do it fairly regularly. So that's kind of the genesis of this, and what will happen for me after this, after we get to 30/30, is like you'll see if you notice my content, and I'm unconscious, I don't want to keep talking, and I'll hand over to Janice in a bit, is that you'll see that I'm building out my own frameworks in my own content. So if you go through like this current sprint and the last sprint, like you'll see day one, there'll be something about writing for 30 days. And then at day 14 or day 12, you'll see a template, and you'll see 12 blocks of images, and it'll be like, be prolific. And then you'll see these blocks, and that's me repurposing my content over the sprint period. But because I do image generation and my copy is changing, those assets go into the framework of what I'm doing. And so I think I said this to you, Janice, like you look for execution, like study for execution, don't study for content. You know the content, you don't need more. You don't need more in here. You just need to like, why did they do that way? Why did they do that way? And if you can do that and implement that into your own systems and your processes and stuff like that, and it will suck the first time, but if you do it, you will start to work out your own frameworks and you'll have your own assets that you will fall back on. And then those assets can be used when you start to have your services or your prospecting calls and stuff like that, and you pull them up, and that's what I do. So, conscious of time, we're at 4:14. Unless you have any questions, I'd like to really hand over to Janice and just do a bit of a Q&A around Notion and systems and processes and stuff like that. And I know that Laura, you mentioned something, and Ben, I know that you had a call already. But what if Janice, like, give you the floor, like, just before I sort of hand over, what are some of the common mistakes that you see in a writing perspective when you meet somebody and they go, "Here's my Notion." Like, what are some of the common things that you see, and then take it from there?
Do you mean like what common problems people have said to me about Notion?
Yeah, like, so I know that Laura was curious about a Notion template sort of dashboard, and then Benjamin, you've already had that conversation. But like, so what are the common things, themes that you sort of see when you first have that? You go like, and you probably go, "Oh no, I've seen this again." Like,
gosh, where do I start? I think, I mean, this is in the context, obviously, of 𝗖𝗶𝘁𝗍𝗶, because that's kind of the only writers I know online, if in terms of writing. I think it's really not having a way to help them do the writing consistently. So, like, for example, a way to capture their ideas so that writing is easier when you kind of have a bank of ideas so that you're not starting from a blank page. Like, that's a big thing. That stops them from being consistent. And then I think the other big thing is they want a container for like storing their not just ideas, but like what they're working on. So like their actual, LinkedIn writing or their newsletter writing, and like, how do you combine it? Don't you combine it? How do you create a system where it's like easy to like refer back to, but also doesn't feel overwhelming? Because I think, writing aside, just anyone who wants to use Notion, which includes maybe people who want to use it to help them with managing all their writing, is the overwhelm. Because it's at the end of the day, it's like the blank slate. You can do anything virtually, or almost anything that you want in Notion, but knowing how to think through how you design a page or a dashboard so that it flows for you, I think that's probably what people get really stuck on, because they might not be able to find like an exact template that they like. But then let's just say they go, okay, this is a great template, they download it. And then if they're not very familiar with Notion, which is probably a lot of people who download templates, it's like a double-edged sword, because they download this template, but they don't know how to make it their own. So it then makes it more overwhelming than having a blank slate, because now they've got so much there, but they don't know how to use it or adapt it. So yeah, anyway, those are the, 3 key things I've seen and what people have told me.
And Notion is quite nebulous, isn't it? Like, you can just go down this rabbit hole of like page after page, and then you go,
oh yeah,
where was that page again? And you don't,
yep.
and then you go, oh, but that should be here, but it's not. And then like,
Yeah.
and you've built out this
Yeah.
ecosystem of mess, and then you're going, oh,
Yeah.
and then you scrap it and you start again, and you've just
Yeah.
lost like hours, if not days, upon productivity.
Mhm.
And so how would
Hundreds of hours probably.
yeah. So how would you then how would you start if I was like lurking you, right? And you were and like what would you say to the lurker that in a piece of content, like, because you talk about like paper's not dead, you've talked about, going slow and stuff like that. Like what would be like 1 or 2 things that they could implement immediately to get going so that they don't go down this nebulous time wasting affair of like, I've got to make the page look pretty, but it has absolutely no value.
Yeah. A couple of things. So I think the first thing is get very clear on why you even want to use Notion. I think Notion is just this very popular tool. And if you're in the online space, the creator space, you keep seeing people share Notion templates, freebies. if you're part of the course, they give you course material in Notion. So it's very prevalent and people go, oh, great, this is like a really cool new tool. Let's see what this is all about. They watch YouTube videos, etc., and then they go, yeah, let's use Notion. But they don't stop to think about what exactly is Notion solving for them, because maybe they don't need Notion. Maybe they have an existing system to manage their tasks and it works perfectly fine. So I think getting clear on like the problem you're trying to solve with Notion is the absolute first thing, and don't assume Notion will solve your problem, which is a common trap that people, I think, fall into. So that's the first thing, like the problem. And then when you want to start using Notion, there's lots of ways you can do it. Obviously, you can hire someone to help you. You can hire someone to train you. You can go buy a course. You can watch YouTube videos. There are like a ton of amazing YouTube creators out there. But all of that takes varying degrees of time. You DIY, obviously lots of time, versus like if you buy a course and you know specifically like why you want to use Notion and like the course is offering you like those specs, then great. I think if you're going to do something on your own, I always say to people, just literally start with one problem and use that problem as the basis of learning Notion, assuming you want to DIY and therefore you want to learn it yourself. So like a super simple example would be like, let's just say you don't like your existing way that you're capturing ideas, or you don't have a system for capturing ideas that you want to write. Maybe you're writing it in like a Google Keep or an Apple Note document, and you're finding I've got stuff in there, but it's like really difficult to use because I can't find what I need. I don't know what I have written about, not written about, etc. So let's just say that was your problem. Then I would just go, okay, all I'm going to use Notion for is literally solving that problem, not anything else, not managing my tasks, not managing my notes, whatever it is, because all that is going to be just clutter and distraction until you actually know how to use Notion. So you start with like the problem of like, I want to capture ideas. And let's just say we're going down that path of capturing ideas then, or writing, literally Google something on YouTube, you'll get like hundreds and hundreds of videos. Just watch 2, 3, see if they're popular videos. Chances are they're going to be videos that people like if they're popular. So, pick 2 or 3 videos and just start implementing that, but don't use Notion for anything else. Just that one thing, because you don't want to try and build 5, 6, 10 different things. You'll just end up overwhelming yourself and you just won't want to use it because it's just too hard. But if you have the one purpose, you go, oh, I'm going to write. I'm just going to open Notion because that's the tool I use to write. Then down the track, once you get familiar with it, sure, do whatever else you want to do with it, but start with the one problem with Notion. And then the third thing I would say is don't just use pages. Like that's what's great about Notion. You just have these like blank pages. You can create an infinite number of blank pages, and then you get down to that problem of like, where did I store that page? Pages are good for certain things, of course, but the key thing is don't, I guess, ignore databases. Databases is literally what powers Notion and the functionality. Understand how databases work. And if you literally watch a half-an-hour video, you will get it. It's not difficult. Understand functionally how it works. And then the biggest tip I have with databases, I was just talking about this to someone recently. It's about how can you think about data in categories. So categorize like data and put it in one database. Don't create, for example, people have said this to me. They're like, oh, should I create like a database for my LinkedIn content and then a database for my newsletters? Like, how do I manage all these databases? They don't know where something is. Think of it as a step higher, which is what is a LinkedIn post? What is a LinkedIn image? What is a newsletter? What is a X thread? They're all just content, right? So your database is a content database, and then you have different types of content within a database, and then you use the other properties of a database to pull out exactly what you want to see. So you would say, this database entry is a LinkedIn post and this database entry is a newsletter post, whatever it is. And you use tags to classify them. You have different properties like the date that you scheduled the post, or maybe it's like a content pillar or a content bucket that you want to track. You want to go, okay, am I sharing, 30% of posts about X, 30% of posts about Y, etc. So that's kind of how you would think about data in Notion. If you put all that information on a page, you're never going to find it again. Once you have like more than 5, 10, 20 pages, it's impossible. Databases is what helps you be organized. It's a lot more I could say, but I'll stop there because that's all already a lot of information if you've never used Notion before.
Yeah, thank you. Benjamin, you had your hand up. Question, or you want to add something to what Janice was saying?
Yeah, thanks, Dean. Janice, I wanted to ask you specifically, like, what's your business framework plan structure? Is it to bridge the gap on custom solutions indefinitely, and is that where you're at, or am I just guessing? Which I am.
My business plan, I don't think I have an exact business plan, that is for sure. But I would say that my plan, or at least what I'm working on right now, is from a business/offers perspective. There's two types. The main one I'm focusing on is setting up someone's workspace for them. So like basically mostly, I mean, all the clients I've worked with so far, which is only a handful, most of them are like, I just want to scrap everything I'm doing because it's not exactly working, and then get a like custom done for you system built in the way they like it so that they can plug in information, bring in whatever old information that's still in their Notion system into their new setup. So that's mainly what I'm doing, which is mostly, I guess, a service business, if you want to call it that. It's like literally done for you. Like, you get on a call, understand their problems, see if you're the right type of this Notion builder or consultant to work with them, because it really comes down to their needs. Like if someone's like a big business looking for a lot of automation and a lot of like integration with other applications, some people are going to be more that way inclined than others. So I'm not that kind of person. So there's a variety of Notion consultants and builders out there. So understanding the problem, and then if we're a good fit, then it's about getting on another call, fully understanding their problems, their workflows, and then going away, building something for them, and then training them on their system, obviously making adjustments. And then for some clients, they've kind of gone on to go, oh, actually, I want more sort of like one-on-one, like office hours, Q&A sessions, to help them adopt whatever setup that they've had. Hopefully that answers your question. So the second offer, was just about, it's a bit different. So the second one's more of a done with you kind of thing. So it's like someone is a bit more of a hands-on DIYer and they want to do it themselves, but they just want some guidance around structure and design, because to be honest, that's actually what the hardest thing about Notion isn't like knowing how to use a database or knowing a lot of that technical detail. That's all important. It's foundational, but it's actually not what makes Notion work. What makes Notion work is understanding workflow design and dashboard design and how to solve problems using Notion. And that's actually what people struggle with, because they go, oh, it can do so many things. And it can, but they don't know how to design it in a way that actually helps them do things, as opposed to just be a place for things, if that makes sense.
Definitely. What's your pricing structure on these solutions? Because they seem pretty bespoke.
Yeah. I mean, that's the big challenge, I think. So the one where it's more of a done with you, let's look at your system, and then I'm going to give you specific recommendations based on your problems and like your goals. That's kind of a standard offer. I guess it's not really a productized offer. It's just like a standard offer. So I think I've been playing around with the pricing and doing some calls with people about that as well. So at the moment, I'm pricing it, I would say, relatively low compared to other consultants that I know that do something similar. It's 189, I think, USD for the sort of done with you side. And then the done for you stuff, so like building the workspace, it depends on what they're after. Typically, prices start from like 1,000. That's kind of the project, but it really depends on what they're after and what problems they're trying to solve with it, because that will determine obviously what needs to go into it.
Yeah, excellent. If you could record what you do and show me, I think you would be busier than you could ever imagine.
What do you
What
mean
do
by
I?
that?
If you could record like your workflow from
Uh,
what a Notion looks like to what your end product is, I mean,
oh,
and put it in a quick video, like
mm,
yeah. So I have trust with you because of the program that we've in and the vulnerability of the last 18 days of this sprint, right? But if I don't know you, just reading your information, I don't really know what you can do. And maybe this is just
yeah,
feedback that listed here, so my apologies. But if you could
that
show
makes
me
sense.
what this looks like in the chaotic mess, like Vernon said, like he doesn't efficiently use it, and then what the end product is with like a loom is something I found the other day that was really cool. With like a loom of you talking, especially in America, Janice, your accent is gonna sell. Like we are intrigued with accents. That's why we have British news anchors now for every major news station in America. We love accents. So you do that, you record it on Loom, you show me Vernon's beginning and Vernon's end, and Vernon being happy, sold. I don't know if you want to
It's a
do
really good tip.
bespoke things though the rest of your life because you can't really scale that.
Mm. Yeah. No, that's really useful piece of feedback because that's something I'm still working out. Like, how do I actually use content strategically to, do what I want to do? So yeah, that's a work in progress in terms of the content.
And you had a
Yeah, anyone
question?
have any questions?
Or you had your hand up?
Uh, it- It's an observation combined with a question potentially.
Sure.
Because you said, what was the phrase that you used? Was it workflow design? Is that what you said?
Hmm.
People don't know.
I think so. Yeah.
I think that is why I'm not making good use of it because I don't. So yeah, this is my question. So I don't think I'm making good use of it because I'm not aware of what my workflow is anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
So in my line of work, people like to say, "Oh, we don't have process here. We just," and I'm like, "That's BS.
Mm.
There's always a process. It just may or may not be written down recently." So to put it back to the individual, I do have a way of working, but I couldn't describe it to you. And so when I pick up something like Notion, maybe because I'm a nerd, maybe because of the people that I follow, I'm thinking, well, there's some features there that look cool and useful. There's a bunch of smart people who are saying this is cool and useful. They're kind of doing what I want to do, so I should probably use it. And then when I start using it, I'm like, but what do I do? There's a bajillion different ways to do the one thing that I know I want to do. And that's just the one thing I know I want to do. So I wondered, is that the problem, do you think? That it's almost like, but like forget Notion. This isn't even a tool problem in the first instance. Like forget Notion, forget Roam, forget Evernote, forget all of that crap. Do you even know what your workflow is for the thing that you're trying to leverage Notion for in the first place? And is
Mhm.
that the thing that you're trying to get help people with? Like distill the workflow, and now you know what it
Yeah.
is. Now you can implement. Now I don't even care what the tool. I mean, I'm from your
Yeah.
point of view, you're probably saying, well, I'm a Notion fiend, so I'm going to tell you how to implement your workflow with Notion. But
Yeah.
really, the thing
Yeah.
I'm going to help you get the workflow out of your head. Is that what you're
Yeah.
doing?
You touch on a fantastic point. That's actually something that I'm more interested in doing.
Hmm.
Or rather something I really believe in, because that's at the end of the day, a tool is a tool. I can learn whatever the tool is, and sure, I can probably help them with using that tool if I was really that interested in learning the tool. I'm not, Notion just happens to be a tool I personally use that I think is really powerful for a lot of things I want to solve problems for. But yeah, absolutely right. It's not about the tool, it's actually about understanding your problem and understanding how you work. That is definitely the main problem that people have. People think, I can't remember if I've already shared this or whether it's scheduled for the future. People think that the problem. People think that they use Notion or any other tool, doesn't matter. They go, oh, great, this is a new tool I'm going to start using because I can see how this will help me manage my tasks or manage my projects or whatever it is. But they don't actually think about, why do they even have this problem to begin with? Do they know what is the problem before they jump into a tool? Because once they start using the tool, all they're doing is moving the problem from their piece of paper to Notion, or the problem from OneNote to Notion, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what tool you were using, paper or otherwise, because that's the problem. You don't understand your own problem, and you don't understand why it's a problem, and you don't know how to turn your problem into a process as opposed to just problem. I don't know if I'm articulating that quite well.
You are to me, because that's what I talk about something similar in my line of work. So I'm a software tester, and people always want to leap to, tell me how to test this thing. Like, we need to test it. I'm like, wait, what do you care about?
Yeah.
Look, what this application that you want to test, what does it even do anyway? Who does it help? Because once you have a better idea of that, that informs what you test and how you decide to test it. So you've missed a step. What are you even doing here anyway? And it sounds exactly like what you're saying.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
I get excited about the tool without realizing, well, this needs to solve a problem. It needs to implement a workflow. Do you know what your workflow is? And for me, you've helped me realize I have no idea what my workflow is. No idea.
Yeah. So I think maybe these couple questions could help. So I think we already talked about the problem, right? So starting with like, what is the problem? Why do you have this problem? And then what are you doing right now? And what's stopping you in terms of what you're doing right now? What's stopping you? I would say those are the things to think about. So maybe you can give me like a specific example of like problem that you're trying to solve with whatever the tool is.
So the problem
Maybe
I
start
have
with a
with
use
Notion right now.
case. So maybe take a step back. So start with a use case that you want to use a tool for, whether it's Notion or whatever, doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So how I use Notion right now is just this massive, just container of. Sorry, I'm Muslim and it's Ramadan right now, and I'm trying not to swear. Trying not, but it's just a pile of steaming brown stuff. It's just, there's no organization. I like it because I can use it to write and I can get to everything everywhere. So if I'm writing articles or if I'm writing ECs or whatever, I know that, and also because I can put it in dark mode, unlike Google Drive, I don't burn my retinas out. So I can just work in Notion. I can use Markdown type stuff, and it's awesome. But there's no structure. So today I could start writing and say, "Oh, I've got a really cool structure that's going to work," and I'll start using it. I might remember it on Sunday. There's a slim chance I'll use the same structure on Monday, but by Tuesday it'll just be like, I've never used Notion before. And there'll be a new structure. And then before you know it, I've got stuff everywhere and I don't know where it is. And then I'll be following a bunch of creators online and they will create templates and they'll say, "Oh, here's this thing and you can copy it into your Notion." So I do, and I just copy it anywhere. And then I can't find, it just spirals into this spaghetti madness. And yeah, so it's almost like, for anyone who's worked in an organization that uses this tool called Confluence is similar. It's like this black hole where you know that the thing that you want is in there, but you cannot find it. Like, it's that. So that's what my Notion is like. I don't know how to. I don't know how to structure the information so that I can.
Can Can I just jump in 2 seconds? So at the last agency for the last job I had, they used Confluence, and the IT director, I actually said to him, "Hey, why are we using Confluence? It's so old and it's crappy. Visually, it's really crappy. You can make it look okay." And he said to me, "Oh, you're one of the cool kids, are you? Notion. Oh, you're one of the cool kids. Oh, we don't." I'm thinking, this is a digital agency, man. It's like we are we not the cool kids? And he went, "No, no,
Aren't
no,
we
no."
all? Yeah, that must have been a mind-blowing thing to hear in an
I,
agency.
I just thought it was funny because I mentioned Notion and he just kind of dismissed it like, mate, you're one of the cool kids. I'm like, well, Confluence is not cool, man. So anyway, so
I mean, honestly, Vernon, what you're sharing is like literally what every person who has ever booked a call with me have said to me in varying degrees of words. It's pretty much everyone's problem. And
Okay.
it's really about how do you structure your data? Well, no, I mean, we already talked about problems. So it's about what we just talked about, understanding your problem, understanding why it's a problem. And then it's about how do I structure my data and how do I come up with a process to view and use this data and retrieve this data and capture data. Those are the key functions that you're trying to properly do in Notion. Like you're capturing new information, like whether it's capturing a new template that you've downloaded or some page that someone shared with you. And then you're trying to do something with that information. Like you're trying to take action on it. And then you also want to retrieve the information in the future. So like you might have read something, right? And then you took some notes, but then you might go, okay, well, it's going to sit there until next month when I work on this project and I need those notes again. Then it's about, okay, when I'm doing this other thing, like working on this project, I want to retrieve something that you know is in your system. How do I do it easily and know where to go to retrieve that in like 2 seconds?
Yeah.
And then it's about how do you use your system to then help you execute on something, right? Like you've got all this information in there and you go, oh, I'm going to pull something together so that I can write my newsletter article next week or whatever. Like those are the core functions I feel requires you to, think through how are you designing and structuring your data and then obviously creating the overall system so that you kind of go into Notion and you go, oh, I'm going to do some writing. Here's a door into that writing section, or I'm going to do, I want to look at my projects or I want to plan my month or whatever. Here's that door into that. I think creating these like doors into your Notion system and knowing exactly where those doors are is actually how you're going to, well, not the only way, but a way of how you're going to find what you need without it feeling like it's in there, but I don't know how to look for it when I want it.
So I would have a writing door.
Yeah,
that
that's
I
how
put
I mean,
stuff
that's how
in.
I do it. Yeah.
Okay.
So like I have like,
And
oh yeah, sorry, you carry on.
I was going to say, so I don't have to worry, because it's something else I've just realized that I do. Like I always like to be precise.
Hmm.
Well, it's like writing, but it's writing for software testers, or it's writing for ECs, and so I'll want to put those in different places. Are you just saying
Mhm.
don't necessarily start with that? Just say there is your writing bucket, and anything to do with writing goes in there.
Yes and no. Yes, in terms of
Okay.
that's a simple way to just get started and putting some structure. But maybe in like 3 months' time, 6 months' time, you might go, you know what, I do lots of writing, but I want just one place to see all my newsletter writing, or I just want one place to see all my whatever, the EC writing, for example. So then you start, splitting that in a structured way, like where you know exactly where that is, but you don't want to go into the minutia without maybe understanding your higher level. I don't know if it's helpful, but I'm happy to share my screen to give you a sense of like what I mean by structure, because I think that's also a bit vague.
Yeah.
When, I'm happy
I would
to,
be
I don't
happy
mind.
happy to.
Let me just
Well, it sounds
see.
like you said before around having a database that you can then interrogate to pull out the information that you want. So I would have a writing database, if you like, and then at some point
Yeah.
I might tag certain things as newsletter or EEC, and then when I want to just filter out all the EEC stuff, I could just do that from there.
Yeah, and then you might go, you know what, EEC has now become a huge part of my writing. And for whatever reason, you go, you know what, I want to look at just my EEC stuff because I'm having a
Right.
session to just work on
Right.
EEC. So you want a dashboard that just focuses on EEC. But let's just say you're starting out and you're like writing a bit of everything. And you know what, there's no delineation that you need to do right this moment to go, here are my 3 different types of things that I'm doing, because they are all categorically about writing. So the one space would work for now. And I think the other thing to remember of Notion is like, it's not necessarily like one and done, because over time, my system 5 years ago is completely different to what it is now. Like over time, you just evolve in how you like to work, and your workflows will change as well because your life circumstance, your business changes, and that needs to adapt with you. So it's one and done for the moment when it solves that problem, but then over time, the system stops serving you and you kind of need to go, okay, I need to change my system because now I'm finding some friction with it and I want to change the way I work and I need to start changing my system to adapt to that. Versus and that's one of the problem with templates. It's that you're trying to shoehorn how you work into a template, and that's fine, but at some point you do have to make it work better. You kind of need to learn a little bit more about it. But I'll just, in conscious of time, so I'll just share this quickly just to give you a sense of what structure means.
I'll just share this while Janice is bringing it up, Vern. So like the problem that I had was when you know how like you got these subscriptions to all these like publishing software, and then the moment you cancel your Taplio, you cancel your, you know, like you like some of these like you lose all your data. And that was the problem that I had, and that's why I started dumping stuff in. But then I used Tiago Forte's power system of like, how do I capture ideas? And it's funny, like talking to Janice now, like I'm at this point, like, so I'm going to answer a couple of things. So, Benjamin said use Teller, use Loom. Do not use Loom. Use Teller. Use Teller. And the reason I say use Teller is that you can record your screen and your video separately in the one thing. So you can have them separate and you can move it around. So that whereas Loom, it's baked in. So that's one thing. So use Teller. And then with the power system and Notion, it's funny. I think the mecca for content creators, like whether we're doing whatever, so we kind of want to go to YouTube because like that's, you know, there's the AdSense revenue and all that sort of stuff, right? Like let's be honest, I would love to go to YouTube, but I have my own YouTube page, and I'm like after hearing Janet, I'm thinking, do I really need to have you? For the time being, it could just go into where my LinkedIn stuff goes in, and I just add another category to another segment to the categories that I've got, and then for the time being, that's all it would be. Captures it goes in there, and then I'd work on it. So, and so when I do my tele videos, and you see my all those images and stuff like that, that's the capture board that's been moved into the category of posted with the data sets in there, and that's all it is. Anyway, back to you, Janice.
So just for a bit more high level organization within Notion, this is how I think about it. So just expand that. So this is how I think about it. I only have, so ignore the favorite section for a sec. I only have 2 sections, well, 3 now. This is a fairly new thing. 2 sections. I've got my front end dashboard. So think about these are your entry points into like the different things you're trying to do in Notion. And then you've got your like backend systems where all your original databases sit. And your dashboards are really composed of views of your original databases. So you're keeping your information organized because information stays in your databases, and then you use views to look at the information depending on the context, so that you're only retrieving information that you need in the right context. So if we talk about writing, for example, if I go into like kind of where all, and this is how I started, now I split it off a little bit, but this is how I first started, which is basically having like a writing hub where all my ideas for everything goes into it. And then I've got like, say, a workflow for, you know, the different statuses of a piece of content. And then I have other things like, I can have a calendar view to see kind of like, the different types of things that I'm posting, when they're scheduled, etc. I've got a system for like looking at analytics within Notion and then repurposing content by looking at what performed depending on what I'm looking for, like whether it's views, likes, replies, etc. And then I can recreate a new post in Notion, either like a new version of it that I can then post again, or it might be, say, a post that now becomes a newsletter article. So this is all like the Ship30 stuff that you would have seen if you haven't already. So this is what I started in terms of a writing hub. But what I now have is individual dashboards for, say, so I'm just going to show you. Benjamin, did you have a question? Oh, I think you're on mute, Stu.
All right, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah. Feel
Fantastic.
free to
How
ask while
much
I'm
would that
opening
cost?
stuff.
How much would that cost to build out what you just showed us? That was incredible.
As in my whole system or like this writer's hub side of things?
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but you showed us a dashboard, I would imagine, initially at the
Oh, I
beginning.
see.
And you pulled up like your different
Give me a
logs.
sec.
And there was a comment made the other day about on someone's post, maybe Roman's post, or maybe it was PMK's, PMC's,
Mhm.
my apologies,
Mhm.
about the system, or maybe it was you. I don't remember. Like all these
That's
days are
okay.
blurry until I'm getting a ton of sleep. Um, and that's okay. This is just a period of time. You showed me, yes, this dashboard. Then you clicked on
Mhm.
something, scrolled down through various things. You showed me, I'd love a place where I could throw up a bunch of ideas of what I want to post and then be
Mhm.
able to track what I've posted and see what those metrics are. One place where I don't have to go into like three different things and see something. If you could create a solution like that, how much would that cost?
So you're referring to this, I presume, which is from in terms of like writing,
Yeah.
like a way
You have
to
your
store your
templates there.
ideas.
Yeah, you have templates there. Scroll down.
Yeah,
And then you have what's there? Write and ship daily. Beautiful. Next.
yeah,
A big
yeah,
old calendar. Love it. What do you got
yeah,
next? Another calendar.
uh,
Fantastic. And then you have your metrics, right?
yeah.
And what do you got below that? More
So
metrics.
this is no. So this is a way of sorting and filtering what you've already posted, and then looking at, I guess, the trends to go, okay, do you want to then expand it into a new piece of content, whether it's like expanding upwards or downwards? So it might be a newsletter piece that you want to break into like 5 different LinkedIn pieces, or it might be a LinkedIn post that you want to now share as an article, or expand it into an article. So this is just like a way of repurposing content using, these are all database views.
Perfect.
So
Let,
in terms of your, sorry.
stop. Janice, I'm going to jump in here. So this is where my sales hat comes in, right? So, right?
Yeah,
So, and
live example.
yeah. So, Benjamin, you asked how much would that cost? Let me ask you, what value would you get from a system like this, and how much would you pay for such a system?
Priceless.
If it was like if there was a number there on a website and you had your credit card, like what would be a fair and valuable price in your head? Go, great, this would be at least one and done for you.
Yeah, good question. So I think you at one point said like 180 for a template. So I know you're pricing a little bit. I'm also a sucker for a deal. What would it cost me in this current form, or what would it cost me if I just ran across this and it was marketed beautifully?
Okay, so now you've opened up, let's say now we're talking about an upsell here. So if you were to
Yeah, I would
get,
negotiate.
if you saw that and it was just, and the price is the price because it's a digital product, and then you just, you put it in, and let's say Janice runs a promotion for whatever, like 15, 20%, whatever, that's fine. but it's the product is a product. But then if Janice then went, well, what if I gave you 2 coaching calls or 3 coaching calls? Then how much would you pay for it potentially to then bespoke add and refine that system to your particular requirements? How much would you then pay for three additional hours and the template?
Yeah. So I'll ballpark here and I'll say a couple things here, thoughts as well, because I'm still having a hard time with a hard number. But I will say this, like, what do you value your time at, Janice? Because right now it
Hmm.
doesn't sound like you're valuing your time at all. Like $180 for something that's even equivalent of one of these is mind-blowing. Like, I sign me up for that all day. I've been throwing $180, $200 on some AI BS trying to shortcut a video, whatever it is, like I've been just throwing it out there, just throwing money, trying to figure out what to do and how to do it, and then getting a refund, which takes a lot of time to get back. If you gave me that, I would pay, I mean, what like ship 30 is like 300 to 500 bucks, depending on when you catch them. That's like no problem. Certainly would pay a lot more than that. I would say you're pricing an easy yes would be, yeah, in the 300 to 500. If you give me a couple coaching calls through it, you could probably upsell me on those, right? You could just sell me the product for $300 to $500 and I'm going to buy it today. If you give me some up coaching on it, probably another let's say $200 to $500 on top of that. And if like a super custom, like I have a ton of content out there and I want to know because I have it spread all over these platforms and you're going to go in and fix it. Like you got to think about your time here, Janice. Like you have a talent as a pharmacist, right? And I don't know what you make there, but what you're doing here is 5, 10x that value, in my opinion. And there's got to be a ton of people out there that are writing that have no clue how to track what Dean is or Moonie is saying that is the signal. And I don't have the time right now
Yeah.
because I got too much on my plate to track that signal or even think about it. If you could give me something like this where I could watch it and actually see it in one giant picture, for me, that would be easy, $1,000, no problem. US dollars. Yeah.
I want to jump into this and then I'll hand over to Vernon to just add some. So this is how I would do it, Janice, and this is what I've been doing with like all of you guys is like, I don't want to use the word guinea pigs, but you kind of have been, and it's been good learning for me, right? So the product is the product, and so the margin and the profit margin goes up the more times you sell it because you've already had a sunk cost in actually developing the product, right? So all of that effort's gone in. So and the reason that I flipped it and said to Benjamin was like, oh, well, how much would you pay? And he goes, I don't have it. It's like, I then re-asked that question the same way. But if there was, what would that be, right? And he said, well, you said 180. So he's already anchored 180 and he said, because you said 180. But if he had said he's paid 350 for ship 30. So here's the thing. Um, the digital product has infinite margin now, profit margin based upon what you've actually, because the sunk cost is already there and you've shown it. So you could sell it at 180, 250 USD, as long as you market the crap out of it, and then you upsell it for three coaching calls. And the 3 coaching calls will then anchor the person's it'll do a couple of things. You will bespoke, you will educate them on the journey. You will then help them bespoke set it up for them to their requirements. And B, you'll then anchor in this is like you're effectively doing like customer onboarding. And then they start to know you, they'll start to follow you. They like because every time I do a video, people then start to go, oh, hey, and then they jump on a call and say, oh, it's nice to meet, and they're kind of shy, but they've seen me more than I've seen them. And that's the whole YouTube journey slash content creator thing. And so from that perspective, I think that, Benjamin's saying like, oh, 500, like like if you anchored it at like, it'd be 250, but if you buy here and then whatever price you want for 3 calls and you'll get faster and faster and then you'll video and then so that's what I think the value is because you're not selling a template, you're selling time and you're selling efficiency, you're selling productivity, and then you'll also get data back on the thing. Vern, you said that you had a comment.
yeah, it was a comment. I almost wanted to just get the rest of us to hide our cameras and you to negotiate an actual, you know, engagement, because it sounds like what I'm hearing very strongly from Benjamin is I need some help with Notion. And I'm trying to solve this problem, and my attempts have been suboptimal. And he's looking at what you have, Janice, and saying, whatever that is, I want that. Um, and so, at some point, I think, Janice, you should totally use Benjamin as a guinea pig, because he says, look, he was pretty open. To me, it sounded pretty open, saying, you tell me how much you want, and I'm probably going to pay that. So it's almost like you two need to go and have that conversation offline. I was slightly cheekily saying you could do it online now, but that would be a little bit cheeky. But you should definitely have that conversation and use this as an opportunity to do what Dean just talked about, and practice negotiation, and try and find where is the price point? Where is the price point for this thing? Is there something I can distill or abstract out of, Benjamin has a particular problem? How common is that? Who is he? Like, what is he trying to do? Is there something I can abstract out of that? And then can you repeat that and repeat that and repeat that? Because um yeah, and same with me, I guess, because I've been here waffling on about how much of a pain in the ass Notion is, and I would like it to not be a pain in the ass. It's like, is
I,
is there any way that I could help you distill something out of all of the knowledge and know-how that you've got?
I think what
And like I said, put it to the test and say, hey, well, I could help you with X for this amount of money. Are you going to buy? You know?
so here's a bit of personal insight, Janice. Like when I got my first client, I basically manufactured a price in my head based upon what I'd seen on Ship 30 for 30. But I keep saying that I got like, so Laura, like Clive's nice to us in the chat. He rips into me. You have no idea. Like, right? Like he's like tearing me a second a-hole. Like just, oh, why is that? Why are you doing that? Blah blah blah. Like, like he kind of comes across as like this like really lovely, older guy, sage, hey, I'll help you here. He's not like that with me. We riff back and forth. But what he said to me was understand the client's metrics and understand um price the client, don't price the work. So in the initial phases of starting up, we will work out what that is because I've had a friend that does a paraplanning business for a financial planning business. He's probably making half a mil to a mil, like just, like he's probably it's probably a $2-3 million business because he's offshoring like labor into the Philippines and they're doing all this work, right? Like, and he's going talking to financial planners and they do all these plans, right? And so he asked me, he said like, how much would it cost for me to do some content? I'm like, yeah, cool, cool, cool. And then I costed what I thought it would be, and I came up with like 12,000 Australian dollars for a 3-month project with, and he's like, oh. I was thinking like $1,000 for 12 pieces of content, but I didn't qualify him on that. And so I should have asked him, well, what's the value? Because you'll have infinite ROI on the product once you've actually got it, because you'll then repurpose the copy and the images and whatever. You know, and that's no different for you, Jan. It's like there's infinite ROI for the client if they're constantly using it. But so you need to understand what is that value proposition, what is that value exchange initially, and then the price will start to go up over time, and then your consulting will probably go up over time, and then you'll probably digitize it so that you'll only deal with people that are paying you like, $300, $400, $500 an hour for a call, or you might do like SMB that are buying Notion for Enterprise, and you're actually doing a proper, you know what I mean? Like it because you cannot jump on a call for $180 for you know what you just won't do it. You go, this isn't worth my time anymore. So anyway, that's just the journey that I've had with pricing and stuff like that. And pricing products, services is vastly different to pricing off-the-shelf products with a SKU number and stuff like that, which this kind of is, but I think at this point in time, there is an opportunity to understand what does that look like in the creator universe going into SMB, into mid-market, into that, which I think would be far more profitable for you.
Yeah, that's a lot to take in. All appreciated. Like in terms of like how to think about pricing. Because I think, yeah, definitely one of the big challenges is I feel like I have expertise to offer, but offering it to the right people that will get benefit from it and I guess are willing to pay for it. Like finding that intersection, I think, yeah, it's something that I'm still working through. So that's been really helpful to think about.
I'll add one more thing to that. Just on the back of what you exactly said there. I'm like you. I want to make sure that I provide value and you walk away and you've gone, this is amazing. I'm using it, blah, 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 blah. And I had the same conversation. Clive, if you guys heard the conversations that we had, like you would laugh, right? Because they're no different from the conversation that we're having here, right? And one of the things that Clive, so so I sent him this proposal. It's a piece of content that I sent through, right? I posted and this email, and it had like this spreadsheet with like all these different line items, and I just made things up and I went, go to market research on competitor product. Free out. I'm just making it up. And I just put down this figure. And then he comes back with this nice email and goes, sounds like you've had a bit of price anxiety from what I've seen. So and this was at the beginning. And he said, so I'll just tell you what I would normally tell a client. I think you need to understand the value of what they want and then just understand and then work backwards from the metric. And basically what he was saying after we had a conversation after that, and he said, look, because I said, but what if they don't get the value? I need to make sure that they're getting value. He says, no. They're paying you, they're hedging on the potential that you are going to provide the intervention so they can get with the outcome. So if I went to a doctor and I asked for a health plan because I want to improve my health, I want to lose some weight, and blah, 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 blah. And he or she gives me that and they give me a diet and they introduce me to all these like, health practitioners around that. And I do like 1% of that. That's not on the doctor. And I get the bill. That's on me because I didn't take the action. And I think we fundamentally have a problem because we think that if they don't get the value out of it, and like the asynchronous course for Ship 30 for 30, I've seen so like when I tell you guys now that we're all friends and we've all jumped in here, watch the people who have not posted in the chat that are in part of the group. They've bought the course, they've wanted to join, they haven't posted. Is that on Dickie and Cole? No. Is that on me for getting them in here? No. That's on them for not taking action in what that is. And so I think coming back to your pricing is like we have this guilt factor coming in going, oh, we want to make sure they get value, You will provide the value because like Benjamin's just said, well, and I'm looking at it going like, oh yeah, what could I swipe from Janice because there's value in that for me. And that value is infinite and based upon how much I actually implement into my workflow. Because I'm running a business, Benjamin's running a business, Laura's running a business, Vern's running a business, you're running a business. And so there is that figure that we need to find. And I think we need to just detach ourselves from the guilt of like saying, well, if they're not successful, that's on us because it's ultimately not. So hand back over to you. I don't
Points.
Yeah.
No, fair points. Well, thank you everyone for the advice and the scenario. I will speak to Ben and also Vernon offline. I'll be actually interested to just learn more, I guess, from a ICP perspective as well, since that's obviously what you guys are also talking about. What was I talking about? I was talking about structure, wasn't I? Yeah, let's go back into it. I'm happy to still go through it. Yeah, so I was talking about structure. So I was answering Vernon's question. That's right. Yeah, so I will be thinking about this is the front end. So this Writers Hub dashboard is the front end, and I've designed it in the way I want to use it. So like when I go, okay, I'm going to do some writing, I'm going to come into here, and then this is where I do all that work. So it's a space to take action. But then I could also, answering Vernon's question about like, do I have, something about EECs, or is it like a general writing thing? So over time, it then evolved into now I have individual dashboards that are just filtered down to stuff about newsletters. So if I go, you know what, I want to hone in on just like my newsletter stuff and like remove all that clutter and overwhelm from like having everything all in the one space, then I have a specific dashboard for newsletters. But this is where you only want to start doing these things once you have a better understanding of Notion and a better understanding of structure, because this dashboard is actually contained within another database. And what I've done is I've linked databases to databases. So these add complexity, and you don't really want to put in that complexity until you need it. And the backend to everything that you're seeing in the Writers Hub, or anything in the publishing platform, is all just the one database. It's all this library of content database. And I've just chop and changed the view that I'm getting depending on what I'm trying to do. So it's just this one ginormous database, and I only slice and dice. Okay, I just want to see newsletters. So anything that is newsletter content related, it appears in this dashboard. And what I'm doing is using filters within Notion to show me just, newsletter ideas, or just the newsletters I'm working on, what's in my pipeline, what have I scheduled, and nothing else appears. So hopefully that gives some insight in terms of like information structure. And like that thing about, I think it was Vernon who said, you've just got like a ton of stuff in your sidebar that you've just like downloaded over time. I mean, I don't really have templates in here because everything in here is just my own. Literally just have one page and dump all your templates in there. Like keeping your sidebar organized is a simple way to just know where things are. So like I split it into like my back end and then my front end. And then right now I've got some experiments going on where I'm like, testing out a few different databases, a few different ideas. I've just created this experiment little page, in the last couple of months, just to separate some stuff out. And then, in terms of the sidebar structure, the favorites is just whatever I want to quickly reference. Some of them will be there permanently. Some of them will be there temporarily, depending on what I'm doing. So hopefully that helps in terms of some idea around how you structure. Don't know if that helped, Vernon.
It did. Is this the kind of thing that you describe in your EEC?
Yes. Yeah. So you should, if you haven't already looked at it, I would say get the EEC, because it basically goes through like the very basics of like how do you structure and streamline what you already have.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I talk a lot about that kind of stuff in the EEC, like sidebar organization, database organization, how to use pages, how to use templates, and how to maintain it. That's the other thing as well. Like it's not a one and done. Like ultimately you have to have good processes to go, you keep putting in data, but you have to also then go, I need to regularly clean it up. So like, to give you an example, it's like I've got like a processing dashboard where it just pulls in specific views of databases, and I'll come here once a week and I'll go, oh, I've got this link that I saved, but it's obviously I haven't saved it properly, right? So I want to go in there, I'll click into it and then fill in whatever the properties are. And then once I do, it will just disappear because I processed it. And this literally takes me like, depending on how many things I saved in my notes, my content creation ideas, my tasks, etc., it takes me like 2 to 5 minutes a week, because I've got a view of like all the stuff that I haven't quite dealt with properly. It just automatically accumulates in this one dashboard. So this is about the workflow design we were talking about earlier.
And it almost feels like there's a theoretical side, which is it's almost there's this idealized version of, if you were starting this today, this is what it would look like. Here's the underlying theory, etc., etc. And then there's almost like another, I don't know, approach, which is you are starting in a mess, and are you trying to organize what you've got into something, or are you just going to nuke everything and just start? It's almost like there's two different. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. So I think what I will say to that is, from just talking to the different clients and working with the different clients, the people who nuke everything and start afresh are the ones who are more of the done for you service. Like, they're like, just here are all my problems. Here's how I want to do something in Notion. Just do it for me. And then I will start using it, and all the other stuff that I have in Notion over time, I'll just add if it's relevant. Because if you follow 𝗂𝗏𝗿𝗄𝗏 and all these productivity people online, at the end of the day, you don't want to just import everything from your last 20 years into a new system, because have you actually used anything that's written in OneNote or Apple Notes or whatever? Because if it becomes relevant, you can still go to those systems, assuming it's a free tool that you still have access to. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend automatically moving everything into something you build if you were getting a complete new setup. And then the people who've kind of wanted more sort of like, oh, I've got a system and I want to pull it together, then it's a slightly different process to how do you improve the existing system versus how do you build it from scratch.
Yeah. Cool. Makes sense. Thanks.
But yeah, I don't know if anyone else, conscious that we've been not going on for like 2 hours now. I don't know if anyone else has any questions. I'm happy to answer them if you still have questions. I don't know where Dean's gone.
Dean has completely vanished. Where's he gone?
Yeah, he has disappeared. So, all right.
No, I'm back. I'm back.
Oh,
Sorry. My daughter was awake, so I had to just like put it down. All right. What did we get to?
I'm
Jump?
gonna disappear because I'm gonna go and get something to eat. So it was great meeting everybody in person. Like, you're all real humans. Amazing. So I will see you. I will see you in LinkedIn and school and all over the place. Thanks for all the insights, everybody. Very nice to meet you.
Yeah.
See you, Van.
See
You
you.
folks.
I'm happy to I had a really great time. This was good. I'm happy to do it again if you guys want, maybe at the end of the sprint. I think there's just so much stuff that you can get into. Like just Janice. I spoke to Janice really quickly, hey, let's do a Q&A. Like I didn't know where it would go, and you can see, and you can just see that, like, whether it's like pricing, whether it's like digital marketing, whether it's like writing, it's just like you're just touching the surface with the writing stuff, and it just goes so deep. And and the stuff that with ship 30 for 30 is that, like, I honestly believe that you need to do like 3, maybe 4 sprints of ship 30, and that's why the cohorts were so great. And because then you start to understand your niche and stuff like that. And I have a particular view on PGA, and I know that the guys are building a course in web business and stuff like that. But like I was in PGA for a very short period of time. And what I saw in there was the content was great, but then there are some fundamental ingredients that need to be in place for anyone to have some level of success. And there are people there that are just buying the course, jumping in there, and they've never written online. They've they become fanatics of like particular content creators, and they write about that content creator all the time. And I'm like, that's not your ICP. If I was coming to you, like, why would I even think about when you're just writing about this particular person? Um, it- so there are some fundamental sort of challenges that I have with some of the business model from that perspective. And that's why I kind of did this, because I think this kind of brings a whole bunch of people together. We're all here at the beginning, and I've learned so much from just like getting to know you guys one to one, like by calling and sending messages, and you get that. And when you get that, you'll only get feedback from me when I'm impressed. Um, and like Laura, as I said, like in the video, it's like I will give you a shit sandwich. It'll be like nice, some shit, and then like I'll wrap it up and say, well, this was great, and this is what I think you should blah, blah, blah. And I think that that's just a nicer way of actually kind of going. And it's always going to be my perspective. So I'm not right. I'm not 100%. I'm just a little bit further, and I just do pretty images and I can go into that as well. Roman can go into the videos. We can talk about more sensitive content with, Benjamin. Like we can do a whole bunch of different things. And I think that we're all in this amazing journey, but without a community, it is so damn lonely because you just get just tumbleweeds coming past and going like, is this even resonating? And I'll end on this. I'll end on this. Because I could talk about sales outreach and social selling till the cows come home. Like I just know so much about it because I've been doing it for such a long time. When you start writing to a specific niche, the expectation that you have on engagement and reach needs to be managed so that you understand how your content is going to reach your ICP. So what I mean by that is if you're selling one to many and you're like a Justin Welsh or a Dick and Cole and trying to sell to the masses and go, hey, you want to escape the 9 to 5, come and be a content creator. This is how you do it. Then you want everybody under the sun to come and like your stuff because that's your niche. But if, let's say, so I think Janice, you've got some element of that just given Notion as a product. But if you were to then start to go into like SMB startup, where they're going to implement Notion and they've got some, Series A, Series B funding, you'd probably go, well, to get started with me, it'd probably be like, $2,500 for a 1 day workshop. We'd get it up, blah, 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 blah. And you're probably going like, yeah, 2,500, that'd be great for 1 day. But for them, they're going to get like this whole system and process and stuff like that. And so so your audience goes from like this thing to just slightly smaller. And so the expectation on reach and engagement has to then be met. So I'm now writing specifically on executive ghostwriting. And I have removed a whole bunch of barnacles from my account. So that's why you're not getting the engagement. And the outreach is what's going to drive the content back into their feed. And there's all of this stuff that people don't talk about. They go, oh, here's the reach, here's the reach, here's the reach. So there's an element of that. So your niche, depending upon what that's going to be, is going to drive the level of engagement that you have. And then knowing very well that your ICP are going to be lurking specifically. And I say this because when I was in SaaS, and also in agency, you have sophisticated buy cycles. So 3 months to actually build pipeline, and then it's usually 6 month timeline to actually close if it's fast. And if it's longer, it's 12 to 18 months. And if I'm saying what I'm saying is bullshit, right? Then the opposite would be true, which would mean that like Salesforce, Oracle, SAP, all of these large software companies, they wouldn't have sales teams, they wouldn't have BDRs, they would hire a army of ghostwriters and content creators, and they don't because the buy cycle is different and it's quite sophisticated. So that's why they've got people to talk to people. And so Laura, you're selling ghostwriting services, right? That's a sophisticated sales cycle from B2B because you're asking people they're not dropping $150 for a one-time online course. And Benjamin, if you're going to go down that services route, it's very personal type sort of stuff. It's going to be sophisticated buy cycle. It's not going to it's probably more digital, but like what are the touch points that a lurker so if I got separated and divorced, I'd be like lurking the crap out of your stuff before I even got to you. And so what would you need to see from a digital moat perspective to get to that point? And these are the things that I don't think that these digital courses really talk about. So when you buy the 6.5, 10,000, $15,000 course, it's just like, you're right. And then it's just like nothing. And you're going like, why isn't this working for me? And so it's understanding all of these things. And we all know these different things from different aspects. So anyway, I could talk all night because you guys probably know what I'm like. So with that, I will send a copy of the recording. I think probably for the next call, if we get some, if you guys like, we'll schedule in 2 hours. We could have it a little bit more flexible, a little bit more open. I'm happy for you guys to like feed me ideas on what that looks like. Janice, we need to talk about doing a template thing, I think, and just wrapping that up with your offer. I think there's demand there because I think that when people jump on board, they come in, they get the type share stuff, and it's just like it's so out of sync with what the asynchronous course looks like. And I think there's an opportunity there to develop that. But know this, Clive is going to ask for his cut because he's asked me. He said, so he's asked me politely, so you guys doing this with Janice? And then he asked me like, so am I going to get paid? I said, what kind of question is that? Of course you'll get your cut. So I'm just giving you guys insight into what Clive's like. So, so with that, thank you for jumping on board. Ask me any questions. I'm happy to jump on with you guys one-to-one. Reach out, converse, create an economy, and let's do this again maybe at the conclusion of the sprint. And then if you guys want to help me run the next one, we can do it a little bit more formally because I think there's frameworks and there's ways that we can do this that's a lot more a little bit more sort of organized than just one guy trying to run this course. So, all right, with that,
Great job.
good night, good morning, whatever you are. It's good morning for me.
Amazing.
All right, see you
Thank you,
guys.
guys.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye.